is something like the Poppy in the top lane.
Oh, I like though. LNG, strangely enough, they're the ones to ban the Azir. Kitty, looks like they got something up their sleeves because, you know, they get rid of the Jax, they get rid of the Xayah. The Kai'Sa is open for a first pick. EDG are gonna ban it. What do you want to see?
That means the Jace could be potentially taken away by LNG, but although the Maokai is gone, champions like the Sejuani can also be considered for Tarzan to play in this game 3. But what is EDG going to prioritize over here? Maybe take away the Sejuani and lock in something like the Renekton where you have a strong 3v3 on the top side.
Well, I guess no Sejuani. Instead, they want to go towards a Rel, but it is the Tristana that we talked about still being top priority.
3 games in a row now for Fofo on this Tristana as well, but we'll have to wait and see because Rel in general as a champion, it does do relatively good into champions like Sejuani, so I wouldn't be too surprised that they do prioritize that towards the jungle, but we'll have to wait and see because I want to look at this top lane 1v1.
Before we do, I will just say Sejuani Jace has been like the counterfeit Maokai Jace, right? Like it is the second fiddle, so again, this would be big, and especially since Renekton's left open here for Zika. This is a strong 3-hit punch if LNG lock this in.
And LNG, they're the ones that get the Sejuani and Renekton. I was honestly kind of surprised that EDG didn't go to deny that, but we'll have to wait and see what Allah has cooking in this top side. We still have champions like the Rumble available if you do want to look for a hard-hitting 1v1 that also does provide a lot of AP in the top lane, but it is going to be very scary to go up against the Sejuani and Renekton. So something like the Ornn that does provide a bit more security in the early game laning phase that also provides great engage onto long-range carries like the Jace and whatever Gala is going to pick, because we had a lot of opinions on the Varus in game 2. Right? It was a lethality Varus who was really struggling to put out the DPS in those team fights, but I feel like Varus in general, you need to be hitting those skill shots. At the end, it wasn't a draft problem, it was more up to execution. Yeah,
again, I feel like game 1 we said the same thing as well, right? Like it's how it's been executed out, and I know that's a cop-out for a lot of fans at home, but it definitely feels true in this series as we start banning away some of the prop-ups of these comps. Ziggs with Jace Kitty, a lot of push, a lot of range. Ivan with Tristana, such a good combination. Maybe LNG are just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure that if this Rel is not in the jungle, that they make sure that we're not going to give it a simple duo for JJ and Fofo to execute.
I mean, champions like the Varus could still be considered by LNG. Once again, they will have double AD carries. However, that is going to be the Rakan getting taken away. And I do want to mention Hung's previous 2 performances in this series so far. I feel like in game 1, he was very cocky with the way he played. He was very confident, but he didn't go punish because he had high mobility on a champion like the Rakan. But in game 2, it was different. He had the Brawl. And when you saw him overstep, EDG, they instantly engaged onto him and Hung was caught out of position.
When these supports get to pull the trigger first, I feel like they have been exceptional. But again, on the back foot, supplementary engage, defensive, it's been a very different story. As Alistar banned away by LNG, usually it's the side with the Rel Kitty that bans the ally themselves.
What are the chances that we're going to get an Aphelios for this game 3? I hecking love Aphelios, although it's very, it's like the plain bread of the League of Legends meta right now, but it will suit relatively well with EDG's composition so far because you have great scaling with the Ornn as well.
Whoa, different though. It's the Varus instead. You talked about this being up, so no Zeri for Uzi this game, but we do again confirm that Fofo's taking the Tristana mid.
Maybe just an Aphelios that will go even against the Varus. Slightly more behind, but we'll have to wait and see. The Sivir is currently getting covered, but we do have potentially the support getting saved for counter pick on the side of EDG. Champions like Nautilus, Mako was great on it in game 2.
Wow.
Maybe that is another approach as the Sivir gets locked in. That is a good answer into something like that.
First Sivir game for Gala here in playoffs as well. I will say against EDG, that's bold considering that Uzi has shown he still favors this champion over the years. Of course, in 2019 was also playing the hell out of it too. Here's some engage, Kitty. All right, Hung back on something that can start the fights off rather than has to react.
God, I would love the Leona getting locked in here because imagine how much pressure Scout is facing when it comes to these team fights. A Leona ultimate and an Ornn ultimate to look out for when it comes to these long-range engages. But if Hung, or at least Mako, wants to go for the winning 2v2 in the bottom lane, Varus and Braum once again, we saw a dominating performance in the hands of LNG, but this time the roles are reversed. Regala, on something like the Sivir, he's going to play a little bit more utility-based that allows Scout to shine on the Jace.
Well, walk me through EDG's comp first because of Kitty. I feel like the Braum here against Sivir, against Jace, is going to be a big impact support for Mako in game 3.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised before I go into that point that LNG didn't take the Braum because it's counter into the Ornn.
Against Tristana and Varus and Ornn,
It's a bit of a weird situation, but talking about EDG, they have the double AD carry composition once again, but they do have great engage from Jie and Ala, but this time around, Ala isn't on a champion that can solo win these games. I mean, Ornn, you can only do so much as a frontline. You can only set up these team fights so well for your carries to pop off. And we already saw if the Varus gets instantly focused down in every single team fight, then he pretty much doesn't exist, especially considering the fact that LNG with this game 3, they have great force. So once again, Fofo is going to be key in this early game, and they need to get gold into his pockets.
On the other side though, Kitty, LNG, I mean, let's talk about the scaling here. The opportunity to hit 500 CS, or more likely for Gala to show that this Sivir will control fights, because this is an LNG comp through and through that, you know, we want to see more of those 5v5s.
I love the Sivir pick because you get to diffuse every single engage from Uzi in particular in this game through. It is just going to be a single target, chains of corruption from the Varus in the bottom lane, and you just press E and it's gone. So all Gala wants to do, at least in the bottom 2v2, is just slowly scale and force those 5v5s. They have such a hard-hitting composition as well coming into this game 3, where this time around they had the Nautilus, so they have the 100% guaranteed CC onto the carries, and it will be extremely easy to gap close onto the enemy team, working alongside the jungler.
There are so many fun ways we can pitch you this story of these teams, guys. It's a third seed match. What I mean is it's a third seed qualification for Worlds. LNG, we've been talking about their BO5s. This is number 6 from the start of playoffs through finals, now to the regional qualifier. To get third seed at Worlds, they have to overcome EDG, but last game, the crowd raunched up and showed that they're here to support Edward Gaming. For Uzi to return to Worlds after 4 years, for EDG to return to Worlds for the 3rd year in a row. Game 3 going to give us some insight as LNG versus EDG begins again. Get off the phone.
I love how synchronized the flag wielders are in the crowd. It is absolutely amazing to witness as we enter into game 3 with the scoreline being 1-1 even now. A best of 3 for this team to have one last chance, or at least a chance to get into the world stage.
They're wild. I don't know what's going on. I wish I could understand Mandarin, but it is wild out there. And it's just so funny to me. Again, Kitty, there are some fans out here for LNG. There is a big section supporting Li-Ning after their huge run through playoffs, after how many games they've actually played. But when Uzi's on a team, whether he was performing like the 17th best AD carry or the first, the fans would always come out for him in force.
And you already feel the power of the fans for the most successful organization we've seen, or one of the most successful organizations we have in the LPL. Just years of achievements in the pockets of EDG, where before it was Scout working alongside players like Maker and Jie, getting that World's Champion back in 2021. So it's a very bittersweet best of 5 to come into.
It's been 3 years of attending Worlds, of course, one with a championship, as you mentioned. If they can go to Worlds again this year, 2021, 2022, and then 2023, and then Uzi for the first time ever with an organization outside of RNG. Outside of that, let's get into the game. Kitty, you were talking a little bit about the rather range. I'm just kind of waiting for bot, excuse me. Talking a little bit about how Uzi is crucial in this game, so walk me through a little bit more.
Yes, the Varus will find natural push against something like the the Sivir and the Nautilus, as you already see EDG getting that level 2 online. But something else I wanted to highlight, which will impact the bottom lane, is LNG placing that ward onto Raptor camps that will spot out Jie. So we obviously know that with the Ornn in towards the top side, this rel will not be pathing towards the top. It is all going to be about the Varus and the Tristana for this game 3, especially if it is going to be a lethality Varus coming into this one, because you have to match the range and the DPS of someone like Scout when he does get his Cyrildas. So we'll have to wait and see if Jie does look for something towards his bottom side, as they want to start dragon stacking as fast as possible.
Lethal tempo instead of the Halo Blades there, Kitty, so just keep in mind, feels like we're setting up for on-hit Varus coming through in this game number 3. I want to also mention that Fofo has good push in his lane on this Tristana, where at game 2 he actually had some impact. Game 1, a little bit slow off the bat, but again, he's kept this time and time again. And EDG, Kitty, this has been their first pick 3 games in a row. I feel like we are starting to see the reason why they prioritize this so much.
The Tristana has been an on and off champion for the entire LPL scene, but we'll have to wait and see, because when the static shiv got introduced, right, it was because Tristana was a great answer into the LeBlanc, but Tarzan wants to shut him down.
All it takes is a W. Fofo waiting for the timing. Tarzan threatens, poke from Scout, and this will just be Tarzan help to push Scout out so that he can make a timely reset if possible. JJ also going to show his face, or at least wait. Tarzan's still around the side. This might actually turn into a gank depending on what LNG want to do, but JJ just says no and approaches Scuttle.
JJ wants to look for double Scuttle. Top lane does have priority for the side of LNG, but because Scout is completely out of mana, he is forced to reset, so that allows EDG to have numbers advantage onto this Scuttle, but Tarzan, he gets it.
He does indeed. JJ won't go any further. As you said, Zeka is up here and ready to go. Big minion wave, though, as Ala pushes that in. Bellow's Breath comes through. But again, as you expect, the Renekton doing pretty nicely here. As bot side, trading continues throughout. EDG's 2v2 looking good.
I wouldn't be surprised if LNG, they do just give up on the bottom lane. They allow Hung to start roaming towards the top side, which is an ongoing trend for LNG's support in general, where you have great carries like the Renekton and the Jace to play off, and you have a very safe AD carry in the terms of a Sivir towards that bottom lane. So before we have the ultimates coming online, potentially he can look for a little roam onto Ala, which will get Zika ahead.
Well, Tarzan in the great place at a great time. Ala again, the focus, and Permafrost with the Renekton is so easy. One more hit, Tarzan takes it, and first blood for LNG.
That's what you expect out of a Renekton and a Sejuani, and LNG executing on it perfectly with the TP in hand as well, but Ala is forced to use his own to get back into lane, but that means Ala no longer has the flash, and he's vulnerable to another repeat gank.
And again, on this Ornn kitty, we know this lane can be abused. Renekton can get ahead and take over. And Tarzan, it's a different direction. Remember, throughout the series so far, what we've seen is Gala. Oh, where should I be? Gala? Hang on, what time is it? It's Gala o'clock. This time around, Zeka gets early attention. And even though he doesn't get the kill kitty, as you said, it's a summoner that can be punished as we look at the replay.
Very clear decision-making from LNG as well. They do spot out JJ going for his Krug, so with this time frame in the pockets of LNG, they just instantly engage onto Ala as his wave was in a bit of a weird situation, slowly pushing into Zika, and also using that flash at the very end. Very nice CC held onto Tarzan, but something's
look at
happening
live.
Lane.
Fofo in a bad spot. He just picked up the ulti, but the flash comes late. They match it. Scout comes through, knocks him down. Solo laners are ahead.
Tarzan on this Sejuani is getting things done in the early game. 2 kills into the Jace and the Sejuani now. I mean, that's not who you want to be getting fed for the side of LNG, but we'll have to wait and see because EDG, I mean, they just blew both summoners in the solo laners of Ala and Fofo. So Tarzan, once he gets that ultimate online, he can potentially look for a repeat gank, which will eventually fall into a Rift Herald for either Scout or Zika.
Didn't we talk about not giving Tarzan Sejuani? Wasn't that something that was highlighted, Kitty? Or at least if Tarzan does get the Sejuani, we should be worried? We're talking about the start, weren't we? I think indeed.
Yes, so I feel like for both of these junglers for this best of 5 series, they do spectacularly well on Sejuani and also the Maokai. Although Tarzan has preferred the Maokai much more into the summer playoffs, for the overall split, his Sejuani has been consistent from start to finish.
1-0-1. Kill went over to Scout, by the way, through the mid lane gank, so the Jace would be so happy as Ala making a roam with Call the Forge got available. But look at the respect. Scout knows his old organization. Hang on a minute. What is little bro doing from the top side? Jeja also angling Shock Blast. Kitty, the wave is getting pushed out, but Scout is not overstepping. This is great perseverance from the mid laner.
You know something's wrong when the Tristana isn't autoing the minions, when the Tristana isn't pushing in the wave. And, let me see. Jeja and Ala are both missing, especially in this top side. You don't see the Ornn anywhere near. So great discipline coming out of Scout and buys themselves a little bit more time. And, of course, the ultimates are going to be coming online.
And can I just say, with that roam down, I know the wave's crashing, but look at the CS difference top side. Something we might have to come back to because EDG are finally going to make something happen in the opposite side of the map. This is a dive onto Gala, but he goes for the spell shield. He survives for now, but the all-in's huge. Fofo jumps in, and EDG finally have a crack at this game.
A 2-for-0 trade, like you said, and that is going to be another play into Uzi's pockets. No kills into this Varus, but Fofo, he goes away with one, but Scout desperately trying to get any gold back through these tower plates. I feel like that was great call from EDG because you had so much control towards his bottom side. You can look at the vision that Mako was able to put down, and that allows Fofo and JJ to look for those flank angles.
2 bits of turret plating, even though LNG are getting Herald now, which is still going to be an objective win. Kitty, EDG are the ones who are getting Uzi ahead. It's a 10-15 CS lead. Versus that topside discrepancy, things are evening out a little bit.
And it's going to be the static Shiv Varus coming into this game 3.
Early.
So it is going to match the wave clear from Gala with the Ricochet, of course. But we'll get a replay of the previous dive in towards his bottom side where they did get the wave pushed in. Fofo jumping over the wall, but everything hits onto Hung, where he still had the flash available. But once your support dies, I mean, the decision-making from EDG was cutthroat.
EDG having their jungler on an engaged Kitty. Let's just reflect from game 1, Ivan, to, again, having the Rel 2 and 3. You know, we saw the Sejuani give it over, but again, it's a priority on this Rel that's also showing us a bit more.
It's a completely different story for EDG, but now we see a split map between the two sides. Yuka once again being 40 CS ahead on this Renekton because he was able to get that gank onto Ala, where Ala is getting suffocated to no options left, and then he has to also roam towards the mid lane just to get some gold back into the pockets. But luckily for him, Uzi's ahead on this Varus.
But is it going to equalize? Again, we know the Ornn scales, Kitty. We know what the team composition wants to do is Tarzan now with the Herald wants to threaten Fofo. JJ nearby, though, to stop this from going any further. I was going to get you to explain a bit more if we get a bit of a lull state here, but I feel like with this invade, JJ is going to use his pressure.
Here you see, it is going to synergy or at least link up between Hung and Tarzan. So Tarzan has to full commit towards this topside win con. You have to place the Rift Herald for this mid lane and get Scout online as fast as possible because Gala and Hung are absolutely suffering towards his bottom side.
Golden boy of XRNG now going to be ganked. There's Chain Corruption, and that means Hung might be in range of Gala, but as he goes on the hunt, Hung almost dropping down. Mako tanks up the turret for now, but JJ again putting all his resources into the bottom lane basket.
Great diffusion from the bottom lane of LNG as Hung buffers the initial Chains of Corruption coming out of Uzi, and they get away with only burning a flash and a couple of ultimates. But once again, Tarzan having this Rift Herald into his pockets. I'm really curious on where he decides to put it. Most likely in the mid lane or maybe even towards the top lane just because of how ahead Zuka is. And once he gets the Gore Drinker, I mean, EDG, they still relatively have to wait until the 2 items spike until they start going for these 5v5s.
Zuka just taking turret plates with Demolish here. I mean, Armor, good little stun up, but it's outside turret range. Bellows Breath follows suit. Remember, Dominus is available, so Zika, if he's too far out, will take that 1v1.
It's also Dark Harvest getting picked up for Scout for this upcoming Dragon. We'll have to wait and see though because absolute vision control is in the hands of EDG towards his bottom side, and they have great flank angle, at least information of LNG's flanks with the Nautilus and the Sejuani as well.
Well, Duskblade, as you said, 1 kill already picked up. Scout is huge. All it takes is the poke. The crowd trying to warn EDG. As LNG now with the Herald down, 15 seconds till Dragon. The timing is great. With this team in a gold lead, they're going to be taking even more.
Double TPs are online for the top laners though, but Ala does have a sneaky flank ward at the red buff if they do decide to go for the 5v5. But Gala, because he's a Sivir, he is going to diffuse a lot of the lane push, at least tower plates, from going into Uzi's pockets. But I'm just going to expect a 5v5 coming out of EDG, but they don't really have any items online, especially in the mid lane.
No, again, waiting for that first one to come through from Fofo. Note that JJ without his tank item either. And while that Herald was able to push mid, EDG are now thinking about moving up river with JJ covering mid, but Scout was able to pick up yet another bit of turret plating. We've seen Jace's run out of control in the LPL before, Kitty. It's already starting as Mako might be caught out, has to jump into Uzi. There's the ulti from Tarzan. Dredgeline follows through, but it's around a wall. Mako gets out with the Boomerang Blade, not doing too much, but the Shock Blast combo. Scout means business.
Great usage of the wall from Mako to really stop that hook from landing. But LNG, they're going to regain control for this Dragon as Ala uses TP towards the top side to catch that wave. So if LNG force, it is going to be a 4v5 unless Ala is going to be able to stop Zuka's TP on this Renekton. But we'll have to wait and see because Fofo, he's making his way up top.
They might be forgetting about it completely since they got the first one. Ala called the Forge God to come through. Zeka has the flash, burns it. Now Fofo comes in with the Searing Charge, matches into Dominus. It's a 1v2, but it's a Renekton. I wouldn't get your hopes up, guys, as never mind. Fofo blows him out of the water, and Ala will be happy to get some release of pressure.
Oh, Zuka. What made you think you could proxy that wave when 4 members of LNG were committed to the Dragon?
He's a croc. Don't blame him.
He's a crocodile in the swamps
Whoa.
as the TP committed from the mid laner of LNG just to collect the wave. But like you said, the ultimate, he wants to kill, but Ala is very disciplined backing in the 3rd bush, so he's not going to get caught out. But 2nd kill going into Fofo's pocket, he is going to be able to get that Kraken Slayer online, which will do massive DPS to the front line of the Sejuani and the Renekton, of course.
Let's just kind of remind people that the Dragon was taken as response. So LNG not going away empty-handed, as even Scout in his top side getting free turret plating, it feels like, for the time being. Kitty, even though that was a win, even though that was a kill over to Fofo, it feels like we are going to be talking about Tristana versus this Jace, right? And which mid laner can carry more.
And the painful thing for LNG out of that exchange is Zuka, one of the most fed members on LNG right now, doesn't have the flash anymore. So I'm wondering how he gets his hands onto people like Fofo and Uzi in this upcoming Rift Turtle fight, which will be in 30 seconds. But we don't see Maker and Uzi resetting for this upcoming play, so it seems like they're going to go for 2 for 1.
Diving. I mean, a Renekton again under turret. Uzi will find it in the end, and he survives the turret blow as well. Caught there by Jer as he moves back towards mid, or rather protected. Uzi getting a kill, opening up bot. Kitty, it looks like a trade with Scout in topside still pushing. But
it's a support for top lane trade, and that puts Zika even further behind on this Renekton. I mean, the CS gap is slowly closing between Ala and Zika, with both of these just being chained together. LNG complete control of this Rift Herald though, and they needed to break open the mid-tier 2.
Scout with that push, as you're saying, the Herald control comes because of it. The 2nd Herald to go down to LNG mid, close to falling down as well. Kitty, let's remember, it is a 2k gold lead just about for LNG here at 15 minutes. They picked up the last objective. And I think now it's time for you to tell me a little bit about how this will operate, because we have a mixture of comp. We know there's poke here from LNG. We also know they have a scaling AD that scales really like no other in the game in some regard. Walk me through how LNG should be playing this mid game.
I mean, we've seen the Sivir and Jace composition before in the LPL playoffs, and it's relatively simple because all the limelight will be given to Scout in this team fight. All it has to be are those shock blasts landing onto people like Uzi or at least Fofo in these team fights before the Bloodthirster comes online, in particular on the Tristana. But we'll have to wait and see until that 3-round spike, because Zuka on this Renekton is slowly running out of time compared to an Ornn, especially when he doesn't have that flash available. So EDG, they're kind of happy with how the game's going right now.
Okay, so game state looking good then. As you said, bringing up the Ornn, we are getting to level 13. So again, that upgrade will be coming shortly. More importantly, Kitty, when you have a Tristana, when you have a Varus as well, that is on hit. That is going towards Nash's, by the way. There is going to be some serious item upgrades that impact the significance of the game. And Kitty, I always like talking about something really important to Ornn, which is even though they're behind in gold, when Ornn starts getting those item upgrades, that gold lead doesn't mean as much anymore because you're adding like 1,000 gold each mythic upgrade itself.
Especially when Zuka on this Renekton, compared to something like the Ornn, once you do reach Ornament stage, I mean, he's not going to be able to offer as much, considering the fact that Uzi's going AP Varus. He's going to have a Zhonya's and a Cleanse to really diffuse the situation against something like the Renekton when he does go for those dives. So EDG, a very slow mid-game so far, but they're more than happy to take that because you have champions like the Tristana and the Ornn that will only get stronger as the levels go up.
Scout getting a fistful of dollars. Fofo is not afraid to step up. I mean, again, this Tristana with Kraken, you're not too surprised. Scout, remember, he's all in the burst with the Manamune, picked up as the 2nd item. There's Kitty, 50 seconds till Dragon. I think that is the next point of contention.
God, can someone just auto this mid lane tower? Just get rid of it. It's one order from dying, but because of how much CC potential that Uzi can provide into these team fights, it is way too scary for LNG to ever challenge that thought. With the Dragon coming up in 40 seconds as well, Zukat doesn't have that TP, so he has to walk his way down, and no flash, meaning that they probably have to play front to back. But once again, LNG's composition is about the poke. It's about how Scout gets his shock blast onto people like Fofo and Uzi.
That control ward in the Pixel Brush, saving lives right now. Gala and Hung playing towards the jungle on the top side. Scout as he rotates back around. It looks like LNG trying to take the short track up towards the top side, Kitty. You're not going to get your hair's breadth turret taken down just yet, it seems, but LNG are at least controlling the rooftops of Summoner's Rift.
LNG 1, they can challenge the mid lane while EDG go for this dragon and potentially get 2 Herald procs in the mid lane, like that tier 2 going down, and that's exactly what LNG is doing.
They're trying to walk up and just take it. Scout does so. In a turret now, the threat is hung. Misses the engage. JJ doesn't though. He's onto the support who's squishy as anything. Fofo's going to reset. Call the Forge God layers through, and Gala is out of the hunt rather, as LNG with the 3-man are still going to get the push that they wanted, but it's a pick over to EDG again.
And Hung once again on a melee support, overstepping his boundaries.
Ornn.
But once again, it's Ornn using that TP and attending the team fight, forcing the 4v5 and using their great engage tools to win that one overall. But now the tier 2 top lane and mid lane towers are being threatened, while EDG, they want to secure themselves that dragon.
It'll be second here for EDG, but Mako moving up, not respecting Fog of War. LNG a full vision control, and he's caught out. Scout's damage huge, and that was just as clean as a bean.
Both supports are going to die for this topside play, but that also means no flash available for Mako.
Hello, Fofo taking on Scout. Ornn's by the side, he's bopped away. But Fofo has to use that ulti to get rid of Scout. I mean, as soon as you see this Jace, you need more members.
Maramuno also online for Scout on this Jace now. All he needs is a Ceruldes to really start pumping the damage onto Ala for this Ornn, where he is going to be extremely tanky for at least Gala to deal with before that Lord Doms comes online. But we'll have to wait and see, because I feel like the Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, mid lane party is going to be extremely important, because EDG, they do have double AD carries. So if LNG, they're not too careful and they want to play for the side lane push in Zika, they can sneak that Baron away.
So again, Kitty, I mean, LNG, that's what they did in Game 1, right? It was a sneaky Baron play that put them in a spot. Was it Game 1 or Game 2? How's your memory? Game 2?
It was Game 2.
Thank you for the correction. Again, I'm 28, I'm getting old, apparently. In esports term, I may as well be 57. Like, as soon as you turn 30, your esports career is over. So I got to really start thinking about what I do in the next couple of years. But, you know, LNG, EDG might be in a similar spot, right? They're trying to think about what they do in the next couple of minutes, because to lead to Worlds, that is career defining. Both teams have already done it in their organizations, but Uzi returning, Gala returning, both legacy AD carries of RNG throughout history. One obviously more so than the other, when Uzi has been the god of the LPL, both internationally and domestically. Gala quickly becoming a bit of an icon as well. And as Baron now spawns, as you were saying, Kitty, to bring us back into the heart of the game, this always a threat for LNG, and at least EDG, they're trying to pick off theirs. Kinematics coming through, again onto Hung. Chains Corruption follows through. Uzi gets a kill in front of Baron. Hung is dead again.
But luckily for LNG, they do have a control ward in the Baron pit. So EDG, without knowing that, they can't really start up the Baron. And the wave gets instantly diffused by Gala on this Sivir. This Sivir is starting to be annoying for EDG to deal with, because they can't siege.
But if we're just talking gold standards, even though LNG have the lead, Kitty, I want to mention, as Uzi was going to back, maybe go for the Rift Maker, that a kill went over to this Varus yet again. They're making sure that LNG aren't walking towards the Baron, as Zika and Fofo having it out in the side lane. Waiting for the shove to come through. Zeka with the all-in, stops the rocket jump, but Fofo's still safely away. Kitty, my point was going to be something else. Arla almost getting caught out of waiting for action. Uzi has a lot of gold. I just want to see when he goes back as a Rift Maker, and if we have a 3-item Varus.
But Uzi needs his Zhonya's coming into this upcoming fight, especially considering the fact that LNG
Hello.
is full AD. Fofo going for the 1v1.
Ulti used, but Zika also used the Dominus.
Oh, look at
As
Baron.
the wave is, Baron is quickly being started.
And Gala with the Ricochet, he is shredding this Baron down, but EDG, they have way too much AoE for them to really contest for this. So LNG, they are going to run away from the situation and go protect that tier 1 tower in mid lane.
Not going to 50-50. Tarzan with the Arctic Salt over the wall. EDG with the inside track. Helping out is Uzi, but he gets chunked out a little bit. And again, Kitty, that wave clear is disgusting. And we're not even at 2-item Sivir yet.
Something I'm not a big fan of is when people go static Shiv on Sivir, because we have seen that in the LPL, but Sivir shines the best when the ricochets do bounce between the minions and you can get that DPS onto the enemy carries. But EDG, oh my god, they're so low.
Tarzan's coming in. There's the Arctic Assault again. Mako and Uzi are both low. Permafrost there. Ulti from Tarzan. Now, not the longest cooldown. It will be up for Dragon, but if Baron turns into something, Kitty, I'm not sure.
EDG, they have full control towards this top side as well, so they know that LNG, they're not going to be able to start this, but one shock blast just put Uzi out of the fight.
Ala's sitting in base waiting for a TP as Gala might be caught out by Fofo, or at least until he presses on the hunt. EG, again, have this inside track towards mid, but Kitty this time, no wave clear.
No wave clear, and Hung is once again in the mid lane trying to fend this off by
charge.
himself.
Rocket jump away, Fofo is so far out. JJ gets hooked on back in, Hung at half HP, that TP is a flank.
Double
the kinematics used again, but JJ's drawing in Tarzan, the jungle almost dead, call the Forge God. EDG say, come at me, bro! Come at me! Zeka is in the backside, but Uzi is untouched. Watch the Forest go with Chains of Corruption. They may get Fofo, but they need the God! Zeka running through, but still, he's free firing. EDG flashing away as the all-in comes from Scout, but he needs to leave. Again, half HP for Varus. Zeka jumps in, it's cleansed, but Gala lives on! And slow and steady, LNG win the race.
A 5-for-2 trade, and LNG with the little health they have, they're going to try and start up this Baron. I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to commit to this, as Scout does pick up a fruit for himself, but that means that Hung can't tank for too long. But great flank from LNG, the double TP committed from Second Scout.
We don't have a TP for EDG, so regardless, LNG should pick up this Baron, but we just need to find out who dies as Fofo is charging towards it, but LNG is
died!
Oh man, Scout, wait. Scout and Gala. Gala should be able to take this by himself. Tarzan's coming in, shock blast. Gala's out, smite, Arctic Assault. Oh, Baron is so sketchy. It's like going out at midnight in the middle of Sydney. But in the end, you get home safely.
Hung just got absolutely owned by the Baron, but the entire fight starts with LNG defending this tier 1 tower and Gala utilizing his ultimate to bring everyone together to force this 5v5, and it was a 4v5 to begin with, because you see that Uzi is so far away on this Varus where he is completely zoned out, and Scout on this Jace, I mean, he's on his 3 items and he is strong.
Look at Gala. I mean, Kitty.
Sidestep. Oh my god.
Clean
Gala completely sidestepped JJ's combo.
And you know, I was watching Uzi this whole time because I thought the Varus is untouched. But Gala plays it in and out so well.
And Zuka on this Renekton, consistent 4-5-man gold drink is the most value that can ever get out of a Renekton. I mean, he was just the perfect frontline in that team fight as well. As EDG, working up the tempo, they were able to secure themselves a Dragon Soul point, but with a Baron buff and a Siva, the siege is going to be insane.
Look at those 3 carries, 3, 5, 4K. Supportive staff and Tarzan and Hung just made sure they hit the hooks, made sure they hit the charge, and that's all she wrote. Now with Baron and a 6k gold lead after the players, Chains Corruption fly through. EDG are going to try and bring this one back. There's the prison launched by Tarzan as Fofo now only joins the fight. Dredgeline to re-engage, depth charge, but Call the Forge God could be huge here. JJ's ulti is not though. It is abysmal. It does nothing, and EDG are the ones walking away.
And there's another wave coming into the mid lane, and now EDG, they don't have a clear force to really fight off LNG in a second attempt. Now Zuka is also going to work towards that top side and pressure 4-1.
Ulti, Mako setting up for Fofo here. Hung will get away with the dredge line. One more on the concussive blows, and Hung might have been dead, but EDG, that's what they're fishing for right now. Kitty, a pick to slow everything down, to stop LNG from moving to match point.
With only 1 minute left on the Baron buff, they can only try to save this top tier 2, but Tarzan, he's looking for it.
Mako, will he be able to get out the answer? Yes, because Tarzan without the ulti. Scout jumps up though. Winter's Bite barely stops him as LNG look for the re-engage, and Hung's stretch line a little bit shallow as the boomerang. I could swear we were back in Australia with the damage coming out of Gala.
I'm surprised no one's pushing in that mid wave as well, utilizing this Baron to its maximum potential. True. Because I feel like Scout, once one shock blast lands, it forces someone on EDG to back. But now that is going to be the entire play for the side of LNG with this Baron, of course. But now they have so many items coming online. The Ceruldes is now available. The Lord Dominic's getting picked up by Gala. Ala is completely going to get shredded in this fight.
You're right, absolutely blasted, because you need to look at what's on the other side, Kitty. A GA for the Renekton, by the way, too. So the ability to dive in on Fofo on Uzi. Zeka in that last fight was so unanimous as a turret does eventually go down, but as we get towards that 8k mark, EDG on the back foot for sure.
It's going to be insane after another 30 CS. It's going to be a flame horizon between the two top laners of Zuka and Ala. So EDG, they're running out of time. We know that the ornaments are coming online once Ala hits level 16, but with the Baron also spawning in 20 minutes, I mean, I don't know if this Ornn is going to survive long enough if they want to play off his engage.
I'm looking at ultis there. You can see the Magnet Storm from JJ about 10 seconds off coming online. Everything else on the map, though, is available in terms of those ultis as Fofo opens it up a little bit more. And Kitty, I know we talked about Ornn upgrades, but with the gold lead this big, I mean, there is no comparison at the time being, as Arla only level 15, only with 2 upgrades given over to the carries. EDG, it's still a massive lead. Up against them, backs up against the wall, is LNG with 6 BO5s under their belt now, are trying to end this very long journey to get to Worlds and at least get to match point, Kitty. I know they were there against JDG. I know it was comfortable, but surely it's got to feel a little bit more secure and a little bit more comfortable up against EDG if they can do it.
They were 1 game away from locking in first seed for the world stage, but unfortunately, with their demise, JDG took that to a 3-2 series, but now they have one last chance, or at least one last run in the regional qualifiers, and LNG, they've proven every single time that they deserve it.
Well, here we go. This could be the fight. In a minute, Dragon coming up. It's Sol for EDG. It's only the Chem Tech, but LNG want to stop it.
Double GA for the solo laners of LNG, so you need to kill them twice. I don't know if EDG have the damage because they have so much burst, especially in Uzi's build.
I think we're going to find out as Scout is the one I'd be worried about. Zeka on a flank. He's spotted out. Fofo willingly jumps into this croc. But again, GA, Kitty told you before on both Scout, on Zeka, as LNG control the space.
LNG, they're trying to bait the idea of this Dragon Soul. So if EDG, they full commit to the Dragon, LNG can look for the fight, and they get an ace, and the game's pretty much over.
Gala summoner down, by the way. Tarzan by himself for the time being. Going to be Brittle, going to be sent up. Hung also the engage. Zika has ulted. Look at the flank! The solo laners of LNG want to take us to match point, but they haven't done the damage just yet. However, with Fofo down, Scout looking here, but Arla, huge knock-up. But Uzi with the Boomerang Blade and everything in between is still given over to Gala just when it looks promising, when it looks good for EDG. LNG return to fame.
The ricochet from Gala putting out nuclear levels of damage, and Scout on this chase never fails to disappoint with the wave now slowly going towards his mid lane. That's game 3 and match point for LNG.
I'm wondering if they can end though, Kitty. Look at the health bars, 15 seconds, 10 on jungle, 15 mid. It seems like the answer is yes as Dredgeline tries, but Arla going to delay, Searing Charge there. Gala takes him with ease with Scout. The crowd is here for EDG, but it is LNG who will send us to the match point with the Nexus turret dropping down. Make that double. EDG will respawn, but Gala stands in front of Uzi and says, what you got?
What an absolute turnaround by LNG. Once those items came online, you saw that through the Jace, through the Siva, these 5v5s were LNG's bread and butter, and you saw that Zika on this Renekton, although getting caught out a couple times in the mid game, he was still able to perform in those team fights. And once again, Zika, I mean, that's why he's